company's request, and it was held, and Supervisor Miller thought it might be a good idea to invite a couple people from the public. I was invited, as well as Warren Marks. We felt honored and privileged that you thought of us to be representatives from the public to attend that meeting. I think a lot of the reason for the invitation is we had been present for all the meetings. We saw and heard the good, bad, and the ugly in respect to the whole McKenna contract. And because that was not a formal meeting in respect to it was a committee or someone held a certain position, I'm not at liberty to make any recommendations from anything that was done. I can tell you this, that we very thoroughly asked a lot of questions. I think we had a very good, open and honest dialogue. I believe all the concerns that I ever heard from any of you were addressed. They were addressed well. Rather than make recommendations, I'm going to make what I want to be referred to or considered as some points of consideration. I think based on that meeting that maybe it would be beneficial if we give McKenna some additional time. They really weren't in service very long, and my thought is let's think about a period between now and the end of the year. The contract and the agreement has been revised. It is more favorable financially for the township. And during that interim period, let's continue to have questions. If something comes up that you're concerned about, let's get it on the table, let's talk about it, let's look into it, and get it resolved immediately. The other thing, I would highly think that you would want to consider is a right to audit clause. This really should be in standard language for any and all contracts you have, particularly with third vendors. Right to audit clause gives you the ability to go in and monitor and work closely with your third-party individuals and look out for your own interests. Generally speaking, my experience has been most companies like the right to audit clause. They welcome and accept you with open arms. Come look at what we're doing. We have nothing to hide, and it covers all parties. So as a point of consideration, please consider the right to audit clause, and also going forward, here's some considerations. Develop a internal control coordinator and a robust internal control process. Secondly, some considerations for a grant writer. There's all kinds of money out there. I don't know why Flint Township deserves or does not deserve any more than some of these other municipalities are getting. And my understanding on our current grant writing is that we have various people writing. I've even heard that our police lieutenant, bless his heart, but he's written some grants. He's been successful at it, but I can tell you with the crime and the short staffing they have, he has way more important things to be doing than being your grant writer. So there's another point of consideration. Then the other thing, why I would also suggest as a point of consideration that we give McKenna another chance between now and the end of the year is because of Fire Chief Beckley. He very well stood that he thought the inspection program was good to the point that he wrote a letter, and I hope you've all seen that or have copies of it or can get access to it, but he wrote a letter recommending that these inspections, especially on rental properties, are really good. It's beneficial for the residents, the township, and it keeps things safe. The other thing, beyond the McKenna meeting, we had some continued discussion just with the people in the room, minus McKenna, and we talked about the building department and the fire department and the necessity that they needed to work hand in hand. There were some rumors and allegations that in some instances, maybe the building department was going this way, the fire department was going that way, and particularly in building inspections. When you do final inspections and you grant occupancy, it is imperative that they work as a team at all times. And I walked away from that meeting convinced that, I don't care what happened in the past, that right now, today, we have a good working relationship between the building department and the fire department, and going forward, I don't anticipate, from everything I saw and heard at that meeting, that there will be any further problems. I think they're going to work very well as a team. So
Thank you.
I appreciate your time, and I want to apologize. We're going to have to leave early. We have a
Thank you,
prior
Mr. Seward.
commitment. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board? We'll move on to action item A. Lieutenant Baldwin, did you want to say anything about that?
As Mr. Seward noted, I do write some of the grants here for the police department, and I'm just requesting that the board set August 15th, the next board meeting, set a public hearing for the JAG grant if any residents want to ask questions
Sure.
about how it works.
Thank you. And thanks for writing those grants. The motion would be in order to move forward.
We would move that we accept the letter of recommendation from Lieutenant Baldwin for the public hearing to be set for August 15th.
Is there a second to the motion?
Or,
All those in favor, say, does anyone have any questions on that? Oh, that was trustee Burt. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of setting the public hearing for the JAG grant for August 15th, 2022, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's approved. Action item B is the CAP plan. We have our controller, Kevin McIntyre, here. Did you want to say anything?
I was just going to let the board know this was just a corrective action plan. We're required to file with the state. We've already met with the department heads and sort of went over, tried to get ideas to address some of the issues here. And so the outcome of those meetings are basically in this outline that I thought the board should see before I submit it to the state.
Thank you. So, based on, well, we got the letter, we had a couple staff meetings, and Controller McIntyre came up with a list of ways to increase revenue and some ideas for decreasing expenses. I also have a list. I know that the trustees don't go to those staff meetings. I've got some copies. If you're interested in having a copy of what we're looking at, that'd be great. I know we have to put action to these items, so we need to be assigning these duties to people to make sure that they're getting done. So the only way we're going to increase revenue is really by actively seeking these out. So if any of the trustees are interested, I have it here. You have the CAP plan in front of you. There we go. I hope you've had a chance to review it. If you want to add anything to it, it's a draft now. We'll take your input. It's due on Monday, the 31st.
Sunday, so I have to do it tomorrow.
Is Monday the 1st?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's due the 31st, sorry about that. So if everyone's had a chance to read that, we need a motion to move forward to approve, for the board to approve the plan to submit to the state. Anybody?
Anderson would move that we submit the attached corrective action plan to the state of Michigan as outlined by our controller.
Is there a second to the motion? Or are there any questions or discussion? Anybody have any
I have a
questions?
question.
Yes.
So is the board going to have a workshop to go over these in more detail?
I think
and-
that's a great
and
idea.
talk?
Would you like to chair that committee?
It would be a no, but yeah.
So, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. I think it's a great idea.
I think it'd be a good idea to go over these in more detail.
Yeah, alrighty, here, I'm gonna pass these this way. We pass it that way. So any other questions? That's for, and one for you. That was. Alrighty, hearing no other questions, all those in favor of approving the CAP plan that we have to submit to the state, the corrective action plan, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That's approved.
Thank you, Kevin.
Action item C is a bridge improvement plan. You have that before you. It's an MDOT project. the highway engineer, Eric Johnson, contacted me. He said, we can, the road commission will apply for the grant. It's 80%. They need a 20% local match. The county would be responsible for 10%, and we would be responsible for the other 10%. We don't know how much that project's gonna cost because we're just now applying for the grant dollars, but it could cost up to $1.5 million. 10% of that is $150,000. They're looking for a commitment, and that's due by August 1st. So what does this board want to do? Are we gonna commit to that? And it's not necessarily, it won't be done this construction season, and you see in the information, it might take a few more years, but they want a commitment from this board.
In order to get discussion, because I have I would like to make a motion that we approve this, the bridge improvement program.
Is there a second to the motion?
Support.
Already, questions?
As the gentleman on the table, I will defer to the ladies, but if not, I'm going first. Anybody?
We want you to go first.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thought you would, maybe. So as Karen, I'm sorry, Madam Supervisor, as you stated, we could be as much as 2 to 3 years. The question I have is, we do have some dollars available through ARPA funds that it wouldn't impact what Kevin has worked so hard to we're all trying to do is cut, but would this be eligible for ARPA dollars?
Yes and no.
Tennis
The
match
issue
here.
is, as long as it's done by the 24, we have to have the ARPA dollars spent by, like, I believe it's in 24.
Yes.
And they said this might not happen till 25, 26. So, yes, if it's done and they get it on the schedule, we certainly could use ARPA dollars, but if not, it would have to probably come from the road fund. Yeah.
Road fund?
So can we check too with the auditors, if we restrict this or tag it for this project? Because I know that we received the ARPA dollars, we could recoup a lot from the loss. So rather than saying this is going directly to a road project, if it's taken into the general fund as a loss, and we just restrict it for future use on the bridge, can we check on that?
Yep, I will definitely look into it, but
Okay.
there's definitely a time limit of when the ARPA
Have to s-
dollars have to be
okay.
gone. Whether you called it the revenue loss or whatever, however you're submitting it.
Alrighty.
That was my question, is
Sure.
whether or not if it was allocated, even though that we initiated, okay, we're gonna offer you this dollars, and they started doing the pre-planning, they started doing all those things, but this was part of it that initiated it before 2024, would we be okay with that?
I'll look into it and see. I thought you had to have them expended, like it has to be gone by 2024, but there may be clauses of if you started it or you could use that money. But I'll check into that.
That
and
was
let you
my-
know.
We could also use the ARPA dollars for road projects, and then come the next year, switch that money back from municipal street funds to this bridge project.
Just kinda borrow?
Yeah, so, do we want to commit to that? We have a motion and a second. Are there further questions?
So these are bridges in,
One bridge, it's, there's several listed, but our responsibility is Torrey Road.
Torrey Road.
South of 69.
North of Bristol, it's the dead end part of it there, but
it's in bad shape. I don't see how we cannot commit the dollars.
agree.
we have a mobile home community at the end of that road as well, that's in
And
the
some
township.
commercial
And
businesses.
commercial businesses there as well, so.
Any other questions? Down this way? Down this way? All those in favor, no, we'll do a roll call. Madam Clerk, we could do a roll call vote on the bridge improvement program where we're gonna commit to 10%
Yes.
local match.
Trustee Favdala?
Yes.
Treasurer Anderson?
Yes.
Supervisor Miller?
Yes.
Clerk Triplett, yes. Trustee Clee?
Yes.
Trustee Campbell?
Yes.
And Trustee Burt?
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the action items is the catch basin projects for 2022. So normally, in a given year, I'll receive a couple of requests throughout the year to repair a catch basin. We pay half, the road commission pays half. And that you can see that normally they're $2,500 to $3,000 for our share, so I can approve those. They're gonna do this by contract work, so they're gonna have someone come in and fix everybody's catch basins. And so I can't approve the total amount here. And so we need a motion to move forward to pay, it would come out of municipal street funds, the catch basin projects.
Anderson would like to make a motion that we move forward with the catch basin projects for 2022 as outlined.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Any questions or discussion?
Yeah.
Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please, on approving the cost estimates for the catch basin projects for 2022.
Supervisor Miller?
Yes.
Clerk Triplett, yes. Trustee Clay?
Yes.
Trustee Campbell?
Yes.
Trustee Burt?
Yes.
Trustee Favdal?
Yes.
Treasurer Anderson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is franchise agreement. You're up again.
This is just a customer, they're in the township, but there's no water lines that they can connect to Flint Township, so they're gonna be, they want to have us be their water, but this is a franchise agreement with the city of Flint, so that we'll provide their billing, but their actual water will come from the city of Flint. And then this just requires board approval, because if at some point we get water lines to him, he's said that he would agree to sign up with Flint Township and take our water.
So a motion is in order to approve the franchise agreement to connect him to the city of Flint water.
I'll make a motion to approve the franchise agreement for the resident at 2080, is it Nidra Avenue,
Nidra, yeah.
as presented?
Is there a second to the motion?
Support.
Treasurer Anderson. Are you wondering what this is?
Yes, I
Yep,
am.
so there's about 50 customers in the township who live in the township and pay their taxes here, but are not on our water system. They get their water from the city of Flint. And the county requires us to have a franchise agreement so that
Okay.
if they don't pay their water bill, it goes on the taxes here in Flint Township.
Oh,
So it's the
okay.
county's requirements, so that's what it is. I know as we go forward and do improvements, one of my goals in the water department would just be to have no more franchise customers. City of Burton did that a few years back. So,
Do the residents have an option to get a well?
did this person have a well and it went dry?
I thought he just bought the house, that he just moved in and wanted
Yeah,
just
he
to
just
sign up
moved
for
in.
water,
Yeah.
so.
I think that's what it was, yeah.
Bought it
So I know our ordinance require,
prior.
you have to be on our sewerage system. I think you have an option with the water system. I know Sunridge is on the city of Flint, but they have an option. They can come back onto ours. So we'll look into that and put that on your list of things to do. So we have a motion and a second to approve the agreement. All those in favor of approving the
Still
franchise?
que- I-
Oh, I'm sorry.
Another question, my fault, sorry. And I think, and if I'm, those of you in the audience may have heard this before, because we did another one of these, and I asked the same question, I think. What is our liability with city water issues? If they're gonna be taking city water, is there any fallback on us with all the issues, you know what I'm saying, with the city water, and can we be held accountable for any of this? Any of the potential issues if something happened to their person living in that home?
I don't have that answer. I know they don't, there's not a water line available for them to have water on our township water system. They may or may not have access to a well. The county gets involved, and Kevin and I can talk to the county about that. It's
just-
been a question I've had since the water issue. And
Banged around
so
up here.
far, there's been no liability or ramifications for the township.
Have we asked the attorney about that? Could we be liable?
I'll ask him. I haven't asked him up till now. We also
Be
haven't
good to know.
received any, there's a lawsuit in the city of Flint for people who were on their water system. I don't know if those franchise customers are allowed to file a lawsuit. I don't know. We haven't received money for any water issues, even though there's residents in our township who were affected by it. So there's a lot of questions out there. You know, we can
But
talk.
this is not the first franchise agreement.
No, like I
Right.
said,
We
there's
have
about
several.
50
I think I
others.
asked the same
Right,
question,
we've
and
done it
I don't know if, I
for
hadn't
years.
gotten anything back yet.
Right.
And the resident's gonna pay the fees to
Right.
assess, disconnect, and get connected
Get
back to us.
connected back, right, that's what he
So they're gonna pay
said,
that,
so,
yeah.
We'll get back with you on that answer, Tom.
thank you.
And run it by the attorney too to find out our liability. Yep. Great.
Mr. Director. I said Mr. Director. So, any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the franchise agreement signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? It's approved. Action item F is Bites on the Bricks. Where's Tracy? Did you want to speak on that, you said?
Not really, but this is just their application to us. We have to approve it so they can, make application to the Johnson County Road Commission. It's for the Bikes for the Bricks event that starts at Austin Parkway. They've been doing it a number of years. I don't think we've had any issues with them. I didn't get anything from you guys.
Motion is in order to approve the, resolution?
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution for the Back to the Bricks,
Bikes?
Bikes on the Bricks, yeah.
Yes. Is there a second? Alrighty, any questions? This permit will go through the road commission. So if there's no further discussion on that, all those in favor of approving the resolution for Bikes on the Bricks?
Aye.
Those opposed? It passes. So, you know what, I'm reading our agenda, I just zipped by, under additions and deletions to the agenda. I thought they were gonna be listed down here, and my mistake, so,
Go back.
do you mind if we go back up to A under additions? It's just the first reading of the rezoning ordinance, 5158 Lennon Road. The new ice cream shop owner is, making request of the planning commission for them to, expand what's behind their house. And I know that everyone saw, well, maybe you didn't, because we just passed that out, but there was a neighbor who was opposed to that because they thought that it would disturb their peace and quiet.
Right.
But, so this will come back to us on August 15th. And, the second one, B under additions, is the rezoning case 5018 Beecher Road. The planning commission, has denied this, in part because, right, Carol, the petitioner never showed up.
Right. So
So-
we denied it and said,
Right.
if he can't come, maybe he's not real interested.
So, on that one, do we want to, approve the recommendation of the, planning commission? Do we want to vote on that?
The recommendation is to
Deny it, right?
deny it,
Right, Carol? You're on,
to deny it.
so you want to make that motion?
I make a motion that we deny the rezoning case for 5018 Beecher Road.
Is there a second to the motion?
Cleveland, second.
All those in favor of, approving the recommendation from the planning commission, to deny the rezoning case signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That stands approved. Now we go back down to action item G is the rental inspection program. You have a letter for reconsideration from McKenna in front of you. You have a letter from the fire chief, in support of the rental inspections. The, new agreement with McKenna, they have agreed to a split of 70%, 30% for us to keep, they keep 70%. And they address some other issues that were brought up in the, first agreement. And, I also had, a print-off of, what has come in already. And, the fees that have come in so far in, just over 5 weeks of working with us is $37,250. 30% of that, so just over $11,000. And we still would have to sit down and talk about what it is this board would want as far as they're still looking at paying the $500 for the use of a vehicle. And I know there's some incidentals. Mr. Seward mentioned adding a right to audit clause, and I'd like to talk to you about that if that's possible. And if there's a motion to move forward, someone needs to make a motion, whatever we want to do here.
I'll make the motion to approve rental inspection program using McKenna Services in accordance with the new terms as presented this evening.
Is there a second to the motion?
Cleveland, second to get to discussion.
Do you have some discussion?
I think all of us do, but yes, I do.
Go ahead.
I'm first?
I
Go
just,
ahead. Yep,
before
go
we
ahead,
do.
go ahead.
Did you want to ask the questions of the board or from McKenna? McKenna's people are here, Sam
Right.
Woodrick, and then the CEO is Joe Jackson, John Jackson. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I think the conversation is going to be directed towards a lot of people in this room. I was on the phone a lot today, a lot of you know that. Calling, questioning, asking questions, concerned about And I was adamant against it. And then after conversation yesterday, I was adamant for it. And after more conversation, I don't know where to come off to, because there was a lot of discussion that came through from our attorney today. And I was concerned about that I hadn't had before. And I have about 4 hours worth of pages. I don't want to say a lot. I have about 4 hours worth of conversations on the phone. I know that a lot of us had good feelings and poor feelings. I think I did numbers. I crunched numbers. You guys know I did that. I did some paperwork. I looked at roughly 31,000 yesterday was what we've captured so far. And
Of today, though, we captured another 5,000.
well, my numbers here, so I don't have to mess up my math.
No.
From yesterday was 31, and we're looking at about $9,000 in our pocket. So I'm thinking, okay, if we did that over 6.8 or 8.6 segments, bear with me, guys. I had a lot of paperwork going on today. There it is. 8.6 segments, if we multiply that out, it comes out to roughly $240,000 gross. All right? Now then everybody says, wait a minute, that's a lot of money. All right, well, you have $240,000 gross, and we're only netting out of that about $80,000 if that number relished itself for a full year. All right? And I'm just crunching numbers, people. You know I do that. So in all good conscience, I'm thinking, that's not too bad. Where do we stand as far as an out-of-pocket? So an out-of-pocket at $240, you guys are, well, McKenna would take $160. So then I looked at what numbers would cost, and Kevin McIntyre gave a number to the fire department the other day, roughly what a brand-new firefighter for 2023 would cost, would be about $89,000, about $90,000 with our benefit cost and their salary. Now, I know that we're not going to pay a code enforcement, a rental inspection individual, full-time person on our payroll is not going to make $90,000 to start with. But if I use that figure as, you're looking at $180,000 off that $240, and it leaves about $70,000 that we net. So I thought, that's not too bad, and we've got, you guys are using our truck, and $500, and mailing expenses, etc. What do we have involved in that? We have you guys sitting in a chair, you guys using our computer, our electricity, it's not taking up a big seat. I'm okay with that. Stuart and I had a long conversation yesterday and today. David, right? He and I kind of had a conversation a short minute yesterday. But then I went back at, I said, well, I got to look deeper. So I put a call into our attorney, and in the meantime, he wasn't available, and then I wasn't available. He called, and we finally talked about an hour and a half ago. And several things came up in our conversation, and I can't speak for him. I cannot say what the attorney said, but I made notes. Great idea, rental inspections. Awesome idea. Great opportunity for us, what we should be doing, because, and this is my notes, the health and safety, number one, is that of the township. If we can help to put the tools in place to keep them safe, smoke detectors, CO2, bad electrical case, staircase, I mean, I just closed my eyes, I started thinking, what can you guys see when you walked into a building? And it's all on the residential side. Gentleman over there in the middle is on the fire side. That would be our fire inspection system, would have to take care of all the commercial end of it. Right. So, further discussion. Turn my pages, sorry everybody. Need to hold you up. Two issues were then brought to me, and one was to figure this out. There's a decent probability of lawsuits occurring against the township, okay? There is a decent probability. One, who would handle the potential search warrants that would be necessary for us to enter a home that the rental owner, I don't have any, the rental owner, tells Barb and Carol, who rent from me, don't let anybody in your place. He's told them that. Now the only way to get in is to get a search warrant. Who's going to be responsible for those search warrants and executing them, filing the paperwork, handling the issue? with
Can I
certain,
say
with
something,
certain,
Tom?
with certain, I don't want to use, with certain individuals who might not be all up and up that have rental properties, there is a case that's on the books, and I looked it up, about this person who sued the city of Flint and won in the federal court with it. So that was one. Go ahead, jump on. I want to get that in.
I hear what you're saying, and when I talked to Peter, he said he talked to Kevin about assigning it to an officer, or we can train the building department. But I will say, if the statistics are accurate, 45% of all our housing in Flint Township is rental.
I
I
have
only
those
know
numbers.
of one so far who's complained about the letter that he got as far as, take me to court. So out of the 45%, that's only been one person so far. I haven't looked at a whole bunch. I don't know if there's been more complaints. I know he owns more than one rental, but he rents all throughout Genesee County, and he kind of has a reputation of that, but that's one person. And, just continue.
Yep, that's the one person whose name is written here on my paper, and I did not use that name on camera. Thank you very much. And I'm not negating you guys at all. I'm looking to find. Secondly, and this is a hard one, that this one did not hit me at all until I read it and I listened to it, and I listened to it in my ear being said to me, and then I read it when I wrote it down again, and I wrote it on a sticky note up here again. I'm a dollars and cents business teacher, 30% margin. That's pretty darn good operating expense. We aren't, we're making 30% on that margin, right? Everybody's heads start shaking. You operate on $100 and you're gonna keep 70 and I'm gonna get 30. And I don't do anything good. It sounds a lot like a tax. Just in my own mind, it sounds, no offense to anybody, but I hope it doesn't cause an issue where we are assessing a fee that's in excess of what our costs would be. Think about what I just said. Maybe I'm crazy, but think about, we're assessing a fee more than what our costs, and we're a government entity. We're a government entity. How do we protect ourselves from lawsuits? So now, sorry, that was, back to the next page. If it's a tax, we can't do it without a vote of this board and us to put it on a ballot to let people, am I right? I'm just asking. But on my next point, here they are. I love rental inspections. Great idea. Awesome. I'm all for it. Big bold letters, and these two ladies tell you, they can see it. But I'm concerned about the legal suits. That this never clicked in my head till earlier this morning before the noon hour. And then more and more conversation as I had it. In bright red, and I'll just flash this across the board, here's my blue writing in bright red. I got it here on the side here so I could remember to say it. How do we defend against something like that? Are we liable? Is McKenna liable? I mean, and these are questions I'm sure that we can get answers for. I wrote it again. 2 years ago, federal district court, this particular gentleman won. Do we pick and choose the rentals that we go to? I don't want to do that. I can't and sleep in good conscience. How do we justify and how do we protect McKenna, the township, the residents from being sued or something like this, if it as that respect?
Do you have input on that? Have you had other communities that have been sued for rental inspection?
We have some insight into it for sure. I mean, the short answer is by doing a good job of running the department, making sure that adequate notice is being sent out to landlords, making sure that we're informing people before we do issue tickets or pursue any kind of enforcement strategy against them. I mean, I would note that while occasionally landlords have been successful in suing municipalities, the vast majority of those lawsuits fall in the other direction. The municipalities coming down and winning them. Just as a side note. And also the issue of search warrants, those really in other communities where we operate rental programs are a relatively rare occurrence. It very seldom gets to the point where administrative search warrant needs to happen. Usually it's through the regular enforcement process. Eventually, landlords come into compliance. Sometimes you do have to issue tickets, send lots of letters, things like that, but sooner or later, they almost always do come into compliance. And part of the reason is because when someone's living in a rental property, the landlord does have some discretion over who comes in that property. The tenants generally have quite a bit more discretion over who walks in their front door. And usually they want us there. They want us there because we're going to tell their landlords, yes, you need to put a fire extinguisher in the kitchen. Yes, you need to make sure there are good sanitary services. Yes, you need to make sure there's hot water, et cetera, et cetera. So, search warrants are really sort of the last stop when it comes to enforcing a program like this. So they're quite rare, I would say. John, you got something to say?
Yeah, if I could just, in terms of the legal situation with rental inspections, in my experience, the cases that have been brought against municipalities for rental programs has been procedural. They lacked a proper appeal process, for example. Those are the cases that have tied up municipalities with rental programs. And because we've had the opportunity to work in so many different communities on rental programs, as Sam pointed out, we understand how to put those programs in place and make sure that all the proper legal references are in the community's ordinances. The procedures are there, the appeal procedures are there, so that people all have access to due process. All the property owners, landlords have access to due process. So that's key to a successful program and minimizing the risk of lawsuits in general and virtually eliminating the potential for successful lawsuits against the community. So, yeah.
Thank you. Tom, did you have any other questions?
Back writing again, I'm sorry, I'm listening and writing. Somebody else can talk if they'd like.
Is there any other questions from anybody else? This side? No? This way? So I know that you've had a chance to talk with Peter, Tom. I don't know if anyone else has talked to Peter. I know that you talked to Peter one time a few weeks ago.
And more recent.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, all of us haven't,
Several
and
of us
it would
have.
be beneficial to have Peter here to discuss this, because Tom raises some good issues. I mean, when you talk about lawsuits, we could just get rid of our police department if we were afraid of having a lawsuit, because the police department gets sued more than any other department in the township. So, also, Mr. Seward brought up a good suggestion in having a right to audit clause in the contract. So for those reasons, I'd like to table this motion until we can get some more input from our attorney, and also add that to the contract and have a little bit more of a conversation so that you're satisfied with the answers to the questions.
That way I'll feel a little better, okay.
So I'm making that motion. Is there a second to the motion?
Well,
I-
there's, Barb, go ahead, procedural.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say we have a motion on the floor,
A
correct?
table, a motion to table
Table
precedes that.
that in Robert's rules, so she can make that motion, correct? That's what I was hoping.
I'll make the
to-
motion, but I still have some comments.
Go ahead.
One is that nobody has reached out to me to ask what my opinions are. I think a lot of people are assuming, and they shouldn't do that. They've asked this company to make adjustments to the percentage and everything. They've done everything you've asked for, everything. And yet there's still, I don't understand what's going on here, and I don't know where the conversations are. And Peter should not be talking to anybody unless he is here.
Peter said he wasn't even aware of this meeting. We weren't aware that this was going to be, this was a special meeting for the fire
IAFF
contract is what we thought.
No, this is a special meeting because the state requested a correction action plan.
Well, the two items. we
Right.
were
Well,
aware
I
of.
got a call from the police department, can you add this? I got something from Dennis, I added something, so, I got a call from the road commission for 2 items. I mean, we had 1 meeting in July, we're gonna have 1 meeting in August. This is if we had to wait till August 15th, there'd probably be 20, 25 items on the agenda. I don't see an issue with this stuff coming
And there
before
was
the
a
board.
meeting that everybody was invited to, for those who wanted to come, and those that could have reached out after the meeting to said, how did the meeting go, if you weren't able to come? I don't think that took place. I don't know, but I'm just saying, I have talked to Chief Beckley, and I think it's imperative. You know, people talk about blight, they talk about all this other stuff. You know, also these funds that come in would help with code enforcement. Eventually, we need that here. We need qualified people. You can't just pull somebody off the street.
I'm not in argument of that.
No, but I'm just saying, I'm just, the fact that everybody's calling the attorney and getting information again just is not okay. It's not okay. You know, that's where a lot of our expenses go. So, fine, call another meeting. Make sure Peter's here,
I'm not,
so he can talk to all of us.
not really, I'd prefer not to have another meeting.
So I got a motion to table. Is there a second to the motion?
There's supposed to be more discussion once there's a motion anyway.
Well, I didn't get a second, so the motion's not on the table if there's not a second. I put a motion out
second it?
there. Did you?
Yeah, Barb, didn't you
I did.
second?
Okay,
Barb seconded the
so-
motion
Yeah.
to table.
Madam Clerk, can you do a roll call vote to table this discussion, this motion?
To table this discussion. Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Trustee Anderson, Treasurer Anderson,
No,
Trustee Clee,
Yes.
Trustee Vert,
Yes,
Trustee Campbell,
No.
Trustee Favdal,
No.
Clerk Triplett, no.
So we have a motion on the table, and we're gonna have to vote on the motion, and that's to approve the rental inspection contract, the new one. And in the contract, you'll notice that it's just for a few months to get us to the end of the year. I want to mention, as far as discussion, we have one code enforcer who's going out in surgery, and if this program ends, we have no one to do any of the work on the 2,000 letters that went on the rental inspection, and we don't have a replacement code enforcer. I think this is bad timing, and I don't think it would hurt to have them continue to the end of December, and then we reevaluate. If it's good and it works out well, we can continue. If the board doesn't like it, if it's not meeting our expectations, we can say no then and discontinue. So is there any further discussion on the motion to approve the contract?
I have a couple other things, if I may. Then I'm going to backtrack. And with my conversations yesterday, forgive me, guys. As we move forward, and moving forward with this group, again, not against them, not against the idea, love the idea, but let me get back to my page of, sorry, bikes on bricks. I normally am more organized than this, but we had all this other movement. There it is. See? Another page. I have a couple of things, and this is not gonna hit him blindsided because I bounced it off him yesterday and today. I'm directing this to the building chief, Mr. Worthing. I would, and this is me speaking, not anybody of the six of you. I'd like to see from him, like we see from the chief, the two chiefs, and today we have the lieutenant here, and Tracy, is a monthly report. If we're gonna go 120 days, I'd like to see on August 1st, let me have a see, and these are a couple of pieces I had. The contacts, I don't need to see who they were or letters, but I'd like to see, I had 52 contacts, I had 45 responses. Secondly, positive, negative, pros and cons. What did I get from my 45? What did I get from my 52? Just so we can weigh, listen to me, us, the township residents and the board could weigh this. And thirdly, the revenue generated, the gross and the net. What are the dollars that were brought in, and how did that, is it tried and true? Secondly, and I mentioned this again to him, I had three little pieces, was to his function, and I know he's got way too much on his plate, but to look or research other companies for potential or better cost recovery practices. I did last night, I did today, we did today at your desk. We saw a few people that want to do singular person home inspections, and we saw one other company. I know we reached out prior to you, but we reached out to another company that, yes, that came over, and this company wanted to take over our entire building department and take every building dollar that we brought in the door, and that was an adamant no, because that wasn't gonna happen. So, if we could see if there was other issues there, and secondly, or thirdly, excuse me, is what happens if we stop, plain and simple, can we, Flint Township Building Department, keep moving forward? So those are my 3 pieces that I threw at him and spitballed with him and tried to get him to stick on the wall. The program's up and running, they have trained individuals, the health and safety of the township is important. If we can give them 120-plus days to make it to the end of the year, I'll keep my mouth shut, I won't talk anymore, and I'll vote at the end of the chance, sorry. Good.
Is there any other further discussion? No? Well, we'll have a roll call, please.
Trustee Burt, can you repeat the motion?
Approve the new rental inspection contract from McKenna?
Okay. The answer is yes. Trustee Favdahl?
No.
Treasurer Anderson?
No.
Supervisor Miller?
Yes, you're taking deep breaths.
Clerk Triplett, no. Trustee Clee?
Yes.
And Trustee Campbell?
No.
Thank you for being here. So, we have action
Sorry,
item.
Jake from State Farm.
No worries. Y'all take it easy now.
Action item H is to vote to move into closed session. That's disappointing. Go ahead.
Clee would move that we would go into closed session at 5:35 this evening.
Anderson supports.
Madam Clerk, roll call please on moving into closed session.
Trustee Clee?
Yes.
Trustee Campbell?
Yes.
Trustee Burt? No. Trustee Favdahl?
Yes.
Treasurer Anderson?
Yes.
Supervisor Miller?
Yes.
Clerk Triplett, yes.
So we're gonna have to say goodbye to everyone in the audience.
I'm gonna turn the mics off.
you said, Tom. A lot of hours.
I appreciate
Thank you.
also you bringing the group together, okay? And I think that, I'm glad you're there where you're at, because I think you make a difference.
Thank you.
So I want you to know that.
Thank you.
Agreed.
I applaud with that, absolutely. The end of the table made the key point. You bring the piece together and you're in the right spot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb, for saying that.
Any other discussion? No further questions? Roll call, please, Madam Clerk, on the motion to approve the tentative agreement with the International Association of Firefighters.
Trustee Burt,
No,
trustee Babdow,
Yes.
Treasurer Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Miller,
No.
Clerk Triplett, yes. Trustee Clee
Yes, ma'am.
and trustee Campbell.
Yes.
Wow,
Thank you.
That's very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will notify the union via email from the car, and we'll begin right away to work on updating the contract so you can get signatures going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Announcements, our next meeting is August 15th here, and if there's no further business and without objection, we'll call the meeting adjourned.